Hello, everybody, and welcome to Kerseys' first ever Google Hangout. I'm absolutely delighted to have with me Managing Partner and Head of Litigation, Anthony Wooding. Good morning, Anthony, and how are you today?
Good morning, I'm fine. Happy birthday to you.
Oh, thank you. Yes, it is a special day and I will be celebrating later, but what better thing to do than to have a Google Hangout with your good
Mm,
self?
thank you.
Now then, you have got so much in your background. You were a city solicitor for a number of years, and then in 1984, you moved out into the countryside for a better quality of life. And then I think it was in 1990 you moved to Kerseys, and the rest, I'm sure, is something you're going to tell us about. So tell me a little bit about when Kerseys was founded.
Kerseys was founded in 1881 by Mr. Kersey, who actually I think you might be able to see behind me.
Ah,
Yeah.
yes.
And he basically set the firm up in Ipswich,
Hmm.
and it gradually grew over the years, took on new partners, took on new area of business, to become today a quite a reasonable sized business, about 50 people all told, doing different areas of law. And last year,
Hmm.
we took on a presence in Colchester too.
Right,
So that's
right.
an extra. Yeah.
Excellent. So you're covering Suffolk and Essex, in fact.
Well, and beyond, we've got
Mm,
international clients
mm,
and obviously all over the UK as well.
mm.
So yeah, it covers these days with the internet, because Mr. Kersey wouldn't have had any idea that what the technology would eventually enable you to do. But
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you've got two main divisions. You've got commercial and private.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about those.
Okay, so the private one first.
Okay.
That comprises a number of different legal areas, but I think to describe them in terms of departments, we've got
Hmm.
a conveyancing department which deals with all the purchases and sales of residential property and mortgages. We've got a family department which deals with family matters, which would be matters to do with children, rights over children, divorce, of course, cohabitation matters.
Mm.
We have wills and probate and trusts, so that deals with making a will, obviously, administering estates of people, and
Mm.
trusts, which can be ongoing matters in terms of succession. So
Mm.
effectively there we can deal with the cradle to grave, if you like, in terms
Mm.
of the legal issues and legal problems and legal matters which crop up through life. And
Mm.
in addition to that, I should mention my own department, of course, which is litigation, which is dealing with anything which is kind of disputatious in any way. So
Mm.
that could cover a multitude of legal areas, boundary disputes,
Mm.
uh, debt claims, commercial, not well, commercial actually is obviously in a separate area in terms
Yes.
of commercial division, but those kinds
Uh-huh.
of areas crop up. So it's quite thorough and quite diverse in its profile. Now, the commercial side,
Hmm.
that embraces commercial conveyancing, i.e. leases, business leases which are created and then sometimes sold and signed.
Hmm.
Also, pure commercial, so you're dealing with terms of business, commercial contracts, franchises, all the gamut of commercial in
Mm.
general, in
Mm.
terms of law. Some areas very few areas we don't do. I think we don't do shipping law, for instance, but we do cover a wide
Mm.
area.
Mm. And I know you're very different to other law firms in that you're very active on social media, very much embracing new technology. How have you got started with all of that? What sort of things do you do?
Right. Well, it's really a gradual thing we've built up, but it's
Mm.
grown exponentially, I think, in the last
Mm.
couple of years. So we've got our own Kerseys Media channel, which
Hmm.
is uh, basically showing films and videos that we've created on legal topics,
Hmm.
and on some things that we do involved with the community outside. In fact, I think you were
Mm.
involved
Mm.
recently in one of those, in relation to my artistic side, which also links a little bit to Kerseys.
Yes, yes.
So
I'd love to
maybe we'll,
talk to you about that artistic
yeah,
side, but
yeah,
we'll come on to that later
yeah.
because that's very
Uh,
important.
Yeah, well, yeah. So not wishing to sort of confuse the two. So basically, there are a number of platforms are on Kerseys Facebook,
Hmm.
which has I think about 620 likes at the moment. Although
Mm.
it's just a numbers game, but that does
Mm.
give some indication of our involvement.
Mm.
Uh, Legal, which is a channel for Twitter, and also we're involved in radio.
Mm.
That's ICR, which is the local radio in Ipswich, but also we do appear on Radio Suffolk as
Mm.
one of their preferred uh, commentators, if you like, on
Mm.
legal issues, and occasionally on television to look
Mm.
east. Occasionally things have cropped up. The last
That's
one was
great.
to do with there was a case about pebbles being collected on the beach, and whether that was legal or not. Did the pebbles belong to the person that collected them, or to uh, the council, or in fact the
Mm.
Crown actually, because
Mm.
Crown owns, is it like part of the foreshore. So these kind of things crop up, and so it's part of our involvement in the community. We like to give information away free,
Mm.
uh, not
Mm.
advice free. I think there's quite
Okay.
an important distinction there. Advice
Mm.
is, you can define that as
Mm.
a one-to-one tailored to particular circumstances.
Yes.
Information is generic, sometimes quite
Mm.
detailed, but
Mm.
generic information about legal principles and new developments in the law. We also do a
Mm.
newsletter, which
Right.
if anyone out there wants to
Mm.
subscribe to our newsletter, that goes by post and by email, depending on
Mm.
which people want.
Brilliant.
So there's quite
Brilliant.
lots of different methods there of
Very, very active.
disseminating. Yeah,
Yes. And going back to the radio, you have like a regular a slot, don't you, on ICR radio, if
that's
anyone
right.
wanted to
Yeah,
tune
yeah.
in. When's that?
That's on Tuesdays
Mm.
in the first in the month.
Okay.
I was doing it weekly one time, but it was a bit too much. So
Mm.
we now do it, and the people can put in questions.
Mm.
I can't remember offhand the ICR wavelength, but so if
Mm.
I get it slightly wrong, that would be a shame. But it's a local radio,
Yes.
and that's usually about eight
Mm. People can
25, can
contact
vary
you and
slightly.
ask you questions. What's the most unusual question you've ever been asked on a radio station?
Oh, yeah, you weren't preparing me for that one. The most unusual question. I mean, certainly you have questions like, how
Mm.
much do lawyers earn? How much,
Ah.
uh, why is it you all go around in Armani suits? I'm not wearing an Armani suit, am I? But you get sort of those kinds of questions as well as legal questions. You have to deal with them because
Yes.
uh, try to
Mm.
put the thing in perspective. Because it's interesting that you mentioned about the city, my
Mm.
city experience, because part of that, yeah, you're right about quality of life, but also there was a sense in which I didn't think that working in the city was actually doing what I call the ringcraft of law.
Mm.
In other words, you're dealing with quite rarefied, obviously big ticket stuff, but quite rarefied areas of law, and you don't actually get a breadth of experience as well.
Mm.
I mean, in our practice, this applies to all the lawyers. They could be dealing with, say a company director one minute, then
Mm.
potentially someone who's on very limited income.
Mm.
Unfortunately, legal aid has
Mm.
cutbacks have changed that somewhat. We're not
Mm.
able to do legal aid because
Mm.
of government changes in the way that we
Mm.
did. But you get this variety of
Mm.
types of cases in the city. You can make a very good living, but you will tend to be
Mm.
generally quite
Mm.
quite specialist and perhaps a little bit disconnected from law in its widest
Mm.
sense. And I think
Yes.
that was quite important to me. That's
Yeah.
why,
The
um,
variety was there,
yeah,
the
yeah,
whole of life
yeah,
experience.
yeah,
Yes.
very much so. And dealing with
Mm.
people as opposed to simply interfacing with very large
Mm.
corporate and
Mm.
sometimes rather faceless
Mm.
structures. It's not
Mhm.
to decry the importance of the city, I understand that, but it wasn't quite for me. And interestingly,
Mm.
uh, true of a number of other Kerseys partners, a number of
Right.
them historically have worked in the city or similar
Mm.
large type firms
Mm.
or been trained there. Maybe
Mm. And
not
have
for
moved.
long periods, and then moved out. It's quite
Yes.
a feature of our company actually.
And your staff are fantastic. The things that they do outside of work is so varied. You know, they're very much paying back to the community. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, number of things have gone on. The most recent one, which has got some interest in the media, etc., has been the Flutter of Fairies, which was
Ah,
an attempt to break the world record for a number of fairies gathered in one place. A surprisingly difficult record to crack. I think it's about 870 in one
wow.
place. Unfortunately, we didn't quite make it. With tens short of the actual.
10
Vote.
fairies
Yeah,
short. That's not
yeah.
that
Ten,
many.
ten,
Surely there
ten.
must be some fairies out there. Are you going to do
Yeah.
it again, do you think?
Well, I can't commit that simply because it's not me that's running it. I was one of the judges actually. I had to judge all these categories of most butch fairy and but anyway, there is a serious side to it because it's collecting for a local charity called Wolverston Wish,
Mm,
which is gathering momentum quite substantially actually for providing
mm,
support for the families of cancer sufferers, particularly in relation
mm,
to hospital environment.
mm,
An Ipswich charity,
mm,
and I think we've collected. Well, I don't know what the latest total is, but
mm,
before the latest thing, which was last
mm,
Sunday,
mm,
we'd been responsible for collecting about £7,000 for
mm.
this. So that's
Brilliant.
not
Brilliant.
not bad.
That's fantastic. And you've got plans as well to support charities in your other office in
Yes,
Colchester.
yes, yeah. We've got an idea there for
Mm,
doing something in Colchester, which
mm.
I probably best not to reveal too much because if you talk about something before it gets
Early
too involved,
days.
but it's
Mm,
also it involves other parties. But yeah, we are talking to quite high-profile people in Colchester in relation to how we might host
mm,
some a similar, obviously not a fairies thing, but similar kind
mm,
of idea that the
mm,
charities involved plus ourselves and
mm,
try to have an event or
mm.
that kind of thing.
Mm.
So yeah, it's
Watch
all
this space then, watch this
yeah
space. Now,
yeah.
I'd love to talk about art because I know that you're very artistic yourself, and I know that you've recently painted a portrait of one of the Ipswich mayors, an ex-mayor, and art is very close to your heart. So, how does Kerseys relate to the art world?
Yeah, well, obviously, it's a personal interest of mine, and one always
Mm,
has to be a bit careful about bringing personal interests sometimes into business. But I did think about it quite hard that it was a way of promoting local artists. So
mm,
what we essentially do is we exhibit local artists in Kerseys' office, and
mm,
we actually do sell their paintings. So we don't take
mm,
any commission
mm,
from it. And so if a painting
mm,
sells, then all the income goes to the artist in question. And we have sold
mm.
several. I mean,
Brilliant.
mostly in the sort of two or three hundred range. I think we sold one for 1,000.
Yes.
And
It's quite a
yeah,
hard world to get into, isn't it, if
it
you're an
is.
up and
Yeah.
coming artist? So it's great to have your support there at Kerseys.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so the particular collective that I also belong to in terms of being an artist myself, but
Mm,
they actually organise some of the exhibitions. But we've had artists as well who are, independent of that and are exhibiting. And the latest thing actually that is
mm,
that I saw a painting in
mm.
the town hall by a student
Right.
from school,
Okay.
almost an academy, and I was
Mm,
so impressed with this picture, which is of
mm,
a boy
mm.
listening to a shell, actually, sort of listening to
Right.
the sea in the shell, and I was so
Yes.
impressed with it. I actually
Okay.
emailed the school, and I think they'll be exhibiting that here.
Brilliant. Brilliant. You're not going to buy it then?
Well, I have actually offered to, but I can well understand that the student
Mm,
probably actually, according to her parents, who's contacted,
mm.
absolutely knocked out by getting
Oh,
this kind of feedback, and you can change people's lives a little bit that way. I mean, definitely,
yes.
you get a letter or an email out of the
Mm,
blue saying
mm,
such things, uh,
mm,
and
mm,
so I have offered, but I know from my own personal experience of because I've sold the odd painting of my own, that actually it's quite a big thing. It's nice to have the opportunity to do it, but if
mm,
you're attached, particularly if it's a seminal work for you, and for her it must be,
mm.
then she
Absolutely.
might be reluctant to sell it. But I have certainly said that we would
Mm.
make Maybe I shall appoint an agent now to negotiate. Uh,
Indeed, indeed. Now
uh,
we're coming we're running short of time now, but I did want to ask you about a film that you're working on, which I think will be launched on your new website as well. Tell me a little bit about this film that's being
yeah,
created.
yeah. The film is with a commercial film producer of this
Hmm.
type of film. It's a promotional film. It's
Mm.
not sort of Mad Max 4 or anything like that. It's a proper, proper promotional film,
Yes.
and essentially it's going to be about 5 minutes or so long. So these kind of films, they can't be long because people won't, unless you've got famous actors in them or whatever, they're not going to hold people's attention for very long. In fact, this Google Hangout is longer than the film. So if people have reached,
Please,
if people have reached
I
this
hope you're
point,
still listening, watching.
so people have reached this point, and they're doing well. But it's basically summarising or depicting the services that we've described there. But also there are shots on location with clients and the clients' premises, or in fact,
Mm.
farming clients in well, fields, and obviously what they get up to business-wise.
Yes.
Printers, people that we represent, and some of them made comments. But it's just to give a bit of colour to the thing. We're going to show it in
Mm.
our waiting room
Hmm. Hmm.
on the subtitles, because in a law environment, it's actually quite disruptive, I think, to have for clients, particularly when they come in. They are a little bit anxious, I think,
Yes,
and
absolutely.
perhaps
Absolutely.
and it's
Mm.
perhaps disruptive to have sound. So we've got on subtitle. We'll have on subtitles in the
Mm.
waiting room, but on the net, on the
Mm.
website,
Mm.
will be with sound,
Mm.
and I think a bit of music. But it won't
Mm.
be I Fought the Law by the Clash.
Well, I am looking forward to seeing this film.
Yeah.
Now, if people want to get in touch with you, they will be able to do that, won't they? They can contact you by your website, actually by through your social media channels or picking up the phone. And I was hoping to have on the screen the contact details, which let's have a look. Hopefully they will be on the screen in a few minutes, and you will be able to see exactly how to get in touch with Kerseys. Having a little bit of technical
Well,
difficulty with this.
when I
So, Anthony, you carry on talking while I find this
basically,
information.
well, our website is www.kerseys.co.uk, and you can get a lot of information. In fact, there's a new version of it coming out on hopefully next week, which is an enhanced. It's going to have live chat on it, actually.
Brilliant.
Not in terms of you're able to get legal advice, but you will be able to make contact.
Hmm.
We'll gather details there and arrange time to get back to you. But it's a way of giving reassurance to people, I think, that
Yes.
how we operate. And also, of course, you can. Oh, the other details come up. So
There they've come up at
details I don't have to
last. Yes.
remember it
And of
down.
course, you're very approachable. So if somebody wanted to, call and visit, you've got the two offices, Ipswich and
Yeah,
Colchester. And
yeah,
as hopefully people will see from this conversation with Ant Wooding, a very approachable law firm that, treat their customers very well and pay back into the community as well. So, Anthony, I would like to thank you very much for giving up your time and giving us a little bit of an insight into, Kerseys as a firm, the long history, the plans for the future, and all the innovative things that you're doing right now. So, thank you ever so much. I really appreciate your time. So, we'll say goodbye.
thank
So,
you.
thank you
Okay,
again.
all right, thank
Bye
you.
for now.
Bye
Bye,
bye.
everybody.
Bye bye.